Story time, guys. I never actually introduced myself on this channel. My name is Gideon, and I approve this message that is about to be delivered. Well, a few months ago, I'll say about 6, 7 months ago, I remember walking on my campus, and it was one of those days where I pondered on what I was actually feeling. Because I noticed that sometimes, you walk through different places in life and there's always an energy or an aura that you feel when you're in a place. And when I was there, that particular day, whatever day that it was, I noticed feeling like, what are we doing, man? Like, you have so many people around each other, but I felt like this air of isolation amongst us, like we're almost like in our own circles, our own groups, and we don't know each other, and there's no real community, even though we're all in the same place very often. And it was just weird. It was just strange. Of course, granted, I mean, maybe I'm the only one that was feeling it, but ironically, I got into a conversation with one of my professors, and he had just written a book called Pastoral Care for Loneliness, right? And I remember speaking to him, and I asked him if he could come on the podcast, so I could interview him about something completely unrelated. And he then, we just got in discussion, and then we ended up talking about his book, and he gave me a copy for free. It wasn't a long book, and I took it, and sometimes I can be so occupied with other things in my mind. It took me about, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks before I even opened the book to read. But then once I started reading it, I was like, I was so, what's the word I would like to use? So impressed with the content because it was so relevant, and it was so incredible how I was thinking about loneliness at that time in my life. And then I ended up by chance talking to my professor who had just written a book about it. And I read the points he was talking about. It was so deep, and you realize that so many people are suffering from loneliness, so many different forms. You have elderly people who are suffering because they don't have family members near them. You have younger people who feel like they're misunderstood. And it's funny because you ask yourself if in generations past these problems existed. Perhaps they did, and perhaps not on the same, but perhaps not on the same scale that they do today. And there could be a number of reasons for that. I mean, we have advanced so much, in technology and so many other things, that the world and the people around us have become so much more accessible. And yet, if this liberty and freedom makes you want to be things or be in places that you never would have wanted to be if you did not see such things, I guess you can call it the lust of the eyes to some degree. But the more you see, the more you wish that you have. And I think this has led us to a place where, even with all the technology and everything, where people are so alone. Not everyone, but a lot of people. I look at my own upbringing, like in the generation of social media. I've happened to grow up in the generation before and see social media come into play. And I know how when social media came initially, it was this cool thing that we could use to like meet people that we didn't know, and be able to connect. And then very quickly it became a thing where people would use for status. So it became about how many people you have following you or friends you have, so quick. And today we live in a world where it's pretty much the world we lived in before, but it's just been amplified. So you're either in the cool kids club or you're not. But what it takes to be in the cool kids club keeps on getting, the boundaries of insanity keep on broadening. So let's say you were just a guy who had some swag, and you were swag, for people who don't know, is like you just were cool or whatever, and you dress nice or whatever. You could probably get a big following. Let's talk about women, because women are like probably the most common influencers, as they call them today, on the internet. So a girl could be beautiful. She doesn't post anything immodest. She's just beautiful, so she has lots of followers. Then you would have, and I saw this happen in real time, you would have the girls who would dress more skimpily. And then it was like, whoa, we couldn't believe that we're seeing this, especially because it wasn't even like pornography or anything that you would go to secret websites to see. It was like in public spaces. and we're like, oh, this is like this, and you're like, wow. So people go follow that, and then the boundaries increase and increase and increase to the point that we have become so desensitized to everything. I must confess, man, like, I think I've seen so many beautiful women now in life that it's so crazy to me. Sometimes I sit and think to myself, man, I can see a girl that's so beautiful and it doesn't mean much, because it's like, what have I not seen? What have I not seen now at this point? So genuinely for me now, you know how people used to say it doesn't matter how you look on the outside, it matters what's on the inside. I always thought that was kind of like, yeah, right. But now really that has become a thing, because it's like, I mean, if a girl is dressing, or provocatively, and you like that, there's a million of them doing it, probably more than a million. I mean, you see it everywhere now. It's not even any, like, you don't even bat an eye. Like, you don't have to bat your eyelids. I mean, honestly, it's not even impressive. I don't think it was ever impressive, but it doesn't even like stun you. You know what I mean? And I'm using this as just an example. Why am I slurring my words today? I'm using this as just an example of where we are at in society. I'm speaking that from the perspective of a young man. But guess what? A lot of older people are suffering with the same things. And loneliness has taken so many different forms. But you know what? The spiritual reality of things is what has led us to the situation that we're in now. Because God is a God of love. God loves us. We're supposed to love him and love one another. It sounds cliche, but the love for one another is gone. The love meaning the responsibility in community, the duty, the honor, the courage, all these attributes that we were told to admire when we were young, or we thought were beautiful things to admire, are being removed from society, and it's all about me, 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 me. Who can garner the most attention? And it's really, really sad, because I'm seeing the consequences of this in real time. Everybody's trying to pretend that they're too busy for somebody else. You know what I mean? Just look on WhatsApp, for instance, right? WhatsApp, when it was initially created, you send a message to somebody, you could see when the person was online. So let's say if you sent a message to somebody and they didn't respond, you'd be like, why didn't you respond to my message? Blah, 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 blah. Some people started to turn it off when they could. And now everybody's acting like they're so busy. So everyone is acting like they're not there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we don't want to have to be accountable to anybody for anything. And myself included. I'm not even trying to say like, oh, I'm better. I'm saying all of us in general, we don't want to be accountable to one another. We just want to live in our own reality, our own prism, whatever we have created for ourselves. And the funny thing about that is that we think that creating the world this way benefits us. It does to some degree, but guess what? At the same time, we're all becoming like-minded in that way, to the point that we cannot come into each other's worlds anymore. We cannot really fellowship with one another, because we all value our space so much, or whatever it is that we're doing, that we block our people, So there are so many different things that have happened as a result of technology, and we're supposed to be getting close to one another, but we're not. We're not. The world is we're growing further apart. Now, not to mention older people who maybe some cases, maybe rare cases, might be abandoned by family members, or have family members that have passed away. I mean, seriously, as a community, man, we all need to do better. And this starts with myself, because growing up, I don't even think I really thought about community so much. I just thought about what I want to do and what I want to achieve, and head on. That's it. But I'm looking at life now and I'm thinking to myself, man, if we don't have any community within ourselves, how are we even going to survive, man? How are we even going to survive? Hey, I hope what I'm saying doesn't sound crazy. And if anyone's watching this, please leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying, because I think we really need to work on how we can fix this issue that we have. And that book that I read is called Pastoral Care for Loneliness by Matthew Ford. It's a really great book. He has another one called Desocialization. But at the roots of everything, it's really spiritual. And I say this to people who may not even believe in God and whatnot. You have to understand that the whole world you're living in is built on principles. And principles come from people. And where do these people derive these principles from? Everything has a source. And if you trace everything back, you realize that the source of the life that we live today is not us. It's a higher being. It's God. But even if you don't believe in God, which is a tragedy in and of itself, I think you can agree that we can do better to love one another. But if you believe in loving one another, how can you not believe in God? Love is a concept designed and created by God, because God himself is love. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Once again,
Gideon, and I approve this message.